This is Evening News for Friday, October 25, 2013. I'm Samuel Suknandan. Thanks for joining us. Making the headlines tonight. Guyana endorses CCJ ruling in Shonique Myrie case. Deportees demand refund from Glenn Lal. APNU will not support anti-money laundering bill. And more medical equipment needed to boost health sector. And now for the news in detail. Guyana's head of state says that the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, ruling in favor of Shonique Myrie against the Barbados government will see many errant immigration officials putting themselves in order. Whitney Prasad interviewed the president and filed this report.
President Donald Ramotar has welcomed the Caribbean Court of Justice ruling in favor of Shonique Myrie, who won damages against the government of Barbados over her treatment at the Grantley Adams International Airport.
We think it's a good ruling that has been made. I think it's going to help a lot with integration, and it's going to. I believe now that many erring immigration officials, will have to think again of how they treat people from CARICOM.
According to Ramotar, CARICOM countries already have an agreement for free movement, and they shouldn't see any Caribbean national being hassled or harassed once they are in compliance with traveling and airport conditions. The president reassured that Guyana and the rest of the Caribbean is not suggesting that the authorities drop their guards as it relates to security, but noted that if the countries have signed on to an agreement, the rules must be followed. After 2 years of court hearings, the CCJ awarded Shonique Myrie 3.6 million Jamaican dollars and ruled that she had been wrongfully denied entry into Barbados. A panel of judges determined that Myrie had been subjected to a humiliating cavity search, unlawfully detained, and improperly denied entry. The court rejected her claim that she had been discriminated against because of her nationality, deciding instead that Barbados had violated a treaty allowing the free movement of citizens among Caribbean community member states. She had been seeking the equivalent of $500,000 in part to compensate for what she said was psychological trauma. The CCJ, established as the Court of Appeal for Caribbean community member states in 2001, is charged in part with enforcing that treaty. For the Evening News, Whitney Prasad.
The notion that silence is perceived to be a mark of refinement seems to be the motto which Mohan Lal, also known as Glenn Lal, owner of the Kaicher newspaper, has adopted and lives by these days. Details in this report. In wake of a recent report that some 750 Guyanese were deported from various countries, several of them are claiming they paid huge sums of US dollars to alleged backtracker Glenn Lal. Lal has chosen not to comment, at least not in public. Not only now, but ever since an explosive WikiLeaks cable exposed his reported involvement in a long-standing and complex backtrack ring closely connected to criminals in the underworld. Lal is yet to even mutter a single word in defense. But now that some of the backtrack deals apparently did not work out, some of the deportees want their money back and have threatened that they will not give up. One deportee said her family and relatives overseas came together and reportedly paid US $20,000 to enable her to travel out of the country via backtrack. It was a horrendous journey as she was seriously abused along the way. Her passport was seized and she was promised a green card and a social security number. The route took her through several Caribbean countries and eventually Puerto Rico, a U.S. island territory, and Mexico before crossing the U.S. border. Lal has been a widely accused backtracker for some time now, a charge he has strenuously refused to deny. This newscast was informed that Lal's sketchy past caused his U.S. visa to be revoked in 2006. With backtrack allegations continuing to loom over Lal's facade, the demand for refund by some of those deported during 2012, mostly from the United States, is likely to make his prolonged silence even more eerie. In light of a recent announcement by government that it will be making its submission to the National Assembly on the Anti-Money Laundering and Countering the Financing of Terrorism Amendment Bill, despite a lack of support by the opposition, APNU leader David Granger said the opposition will not approve a flawed bill. Sapatini Daniels reports.
The government disclosed that on Tuesday night it moved to complete the work of the Parliamentary Special Select Committee reviewing the bill. The head of the Presidential Secretariat, Dr. Roger Luncheon, said within days the report will be presented to the National Assembly and the amended bill will be read in the House for the third time. Speaking at the party's weekly press conference today, Granger said when the bill comes before the National Assembly, his party will do what it has to do, adding that the bill is flawed.
We have had an act, an anti-money laundering act and countering financial terrorism act for 4 years. And they have been trying to push through radical change, or I wouldn't say radical change, they've trying to push it through in 4 months. We have only seen that. We've only been working on it for 4 months. And we are not going to approve a flawed bill. And we made it clear that we want to see a bill which has teeth.
He disclosed that APNU was close to finalizing the amendments to the bill, noting that it was gathering information from stakeholders.
We feel that information is very important because the act as it was and the structure and composition of the FIU were badly flawed. We have gotten a much wider range of evidence. We've been able to look at the recommendations of the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. And we felt that if the government allowed the process to work, we can get an act, a properly amended act in a reasonable time.
Granger clarified that on the day government moved to complete the bill and called for APNU to be present, it had its statutory Tuesday meeting. He also stated his disappointment with the chairperson of the committee for carrying on the meeting, even though there was a need for consensus. Sabatini Daniels reporting for the Evening News.
Prime Minister Samuel Hinds has announced plans to acquire an additional 2,000 solar panels for the ongoing Hinterland electrification program, whereby individual homes in hinterland can be supplied with electricity. The announcement came amid numerous testimonies by Tashaus early in the week about the government fulfilling its promise to deliver solar panels to the various Amerindian residential areas. During day 3 of the meeting, some Tashaus who have not yet received their panels made inquiries from the Prime Minister at a highly interactive session attended by President Donald Ramotar and other cabinet members. The distribution process was one of several that suffered a major setback after the joint political opposition cut aspects of funding to the country's low-carbon development strategy that specifically targeted Amerindian community development. Guyanese-based U.S. doctor Compton Benjamin from the George Washington University Hospital says that more advanced medical equipment is needed to boost Guyana's health sector. Whitney Prasad has this report.
During an exclusive interview with this newscast, Dr. Compton Benjamin of the Georgetown Washington University Hospital stated that surgeries done in Guyana would normally require a much larger incision as opposed to other foreign health facilities. Dr. Joseph said because of the lack of technologies, patients are required to stay longer periods in the hospital and it would drain the little resources that are available. The doctor said minus this, Guyanese doctors are eager to learn and in the future with more advanced equipment, Guyana's health sector will be doing more for citizens in terms of better patient care.
We'll be able to help them to be able to do the advanced procedures, but they are very proficient at some of the procedures here. We were just helping them because there are only 3 urologists in the country, and we brought 3 urologists with us, so we were able to do a lot more of the cases that were kind of piling up.
Dr. Benjamin said that emphasis must be placed on preventative care. He said in the United States of America there is a big push for this. According to him, early detection is always a plus and screening allows people to live longer. When patients suffering from prostate cancer become ill and the situation is far gone, there is a tremendous strain on the hospital in terms of the care they would need if there isn't early detection.
Yes. We've committed to returning in March, and we're looking forward to it. We had a great time. It's not over yet. We still have one more day, but every day has been great. I mean, we've had long days here, and even so, we wake up every morning, or at least I do, looking forward to the day and to patients, and then the patients are so appreciative. Sometimes you operate on patients, and they expect the world. Here, they're so appreciative of everything that you do, and they're so thankful, and it's made me fall in love with what I do all over again.
Asked about training for youngsters who would like to pursue studies in the field, he said that if a transfer program can be initiated, it would be good for Guyana. This would see students going to the United States for training in both theory and practical areas. Dr. Benjamin is part of a specialist team from the George Washington University that is here for a 7-day medical outreach. For the Evening News, Whitney Prasad.
A number of speculations are in the air as to the circumstances surrounding the death of a Victoria rice farmer who died on Thursday afternoon. Bishar Mohammed filed this report.
Fitzpatrick Jr. Blair, 61 of Lot 9 Belfield Housing Scheme, Victoria, East Coast, Demerara, succumbed while on his way to the Georgetown Public Hospital on Thursday evening. One day after his passing, relatives have not gotten any authentic information of what really occurred while Blair was on his rice field a few villages away. They have been receiving conflicting reports as to what really occurred, thus they are left to believe that someone is hiding something.
He go for buy tennis soul and drink, and when he came back he reached Junior on the ground. The next story we say is that he went and buy tennis soul and drink for the boys them, and when he come back he see the man fall off the tractor. They call me and they say Uncle Junior, they upon dying, and we didn't believe because I was laughing in the background. And we didn't believe, so he said, you're making a lot of joke when things get serious. You're laughing.
The woman stated that they received the call at about 1700 hours, but it took almost 3 hours to bring him out of the rice field, by which time he was far gone since it was impossible for him to move his arms and legs. However, the cousins stated that they are suspecting foul play since Blair left home in good health, reiterating that he had issues with some people.
They had some debate over the land because the two men, they wanted the place to work and he gives somebody else the rice field and they vex over it.
The family is now awaiting a post-mortem report which would verify the man's cause of death. Blair leaves to mourn his wife, 1 child and 7 siblings. The police have been called in to investigate the issue. The Evening News understands that several persons were detained and questioned. Bishar Mohammed, The Evening News.
Join us after these messages for more of The Evening News. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching The Evening News. A Partnership for National Unity APNU leader David Granger said his party's agenda for the recommencement of the National Assembly will be based solely on human development and national unity. Sabatini Daniels reports.
The opposition leader said 2 of the main things his party will be focusing on are poverty alleviation and governance. Speaking at the party's weekly press briefing, he said his party would like to see the advancement of local government since this is vital to the advancement of the people.
We would like to be assured of presidential assent to bills which are passed by the National Assembly, and we would like to see Parliament manage in a more efficient manner, a more respectful manner in terms of the attention paid to matters raised by the opposition.
He noted that the opposition would like to see the measures it presents approved, noting that this has been a major stumbling block. Granger said the opposition will be going back to Parliament determined to persuade the executive to adhere to the programs and decisions of the National Assembly. Touching on tripartite talks for Budget 2014, Granger said his party is not seeking agreement for everything, but it feels that there are certain priority areas which the administration should consider.
That is why, from the 1st of December, we are calling the President to establish a tripartite committee to plan for the whole 5-year period, the whole life of the 10th Parliament. But we have been reduced to this jerky process, which results in repeated car crashes. And we don't want that.
APNU Member of Parliament Dr. Rupert Roopnarine said APNU is prepared to assist in the preparations of Budget 2014 to avoid the collision that previous budget debates turned into.
So that we can arrive at essentially a shared view of how to move forward, ensure that areas of neglect in the economy that we perceive and I don't want to characterize them at this point, but there are areas of neglect. We believe that these areas of neglect should be addressed, and we had been hoping that in these tripartite discussions we could put all of these things on the table.
He maintained that the party does not set out to cut any parts of the budget, but aims to have a budget which satisfies the development needs of the people. The party is also maintaining that all its cuts are based on principles. The APNO envisages that funding for the National Communications Network and Government Information Agency could be slashed if government does not move to reform these two entities. Sabatini Daniels reporting for the Evening News.
Meanwhile, a partnership for national unity is calling on government to create a comprehensive national environmental strategy. At a press conference today, APNU's leader David Granger said such a strategy is needed to protect the population from hazards, to preserve the environment from further degradation, to sustain development, and to create a sustainable green economy. Granger noted that the APNU is convinced that a green economy will generate more than enough wealth to transform the hinterland into a land of prosperity, adding that there could be enough money to finance the schools, security and infrastructure that are all foundations on which to build an equitable society. A second-form student of the Lebon Intention Secondary School was on Thursday killed after he was run over by a truck on the Monrepos Public Road, East Coast, Demerara. Bisha Mohammed has the details.
13-year-old Rama Manu of Lot 295 7th Street, Martysville, Monrepo, East Coast, Demerara, died on the spot but was taken to the Georgetown Public Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. Police in a statement said that based on investigations, the young man was riding a bicycle when he allegedly attempted to overtake a motor lorry, during which he lost control. As a result, he fell onto the roadway and was run over by the motor lorry. The driver of the motor lorry, who hails from Good Hope, East Coast, Demerara, is in police custody assisting with investigations. However, contrary to the police reports, an uncle of the dead lad told the Evening News what he heard occurred on the fateful night.
The boy went and purchased fruits to carry to the man there, and he was coming home when the accident happened. So after all we heard people were saying, and I saw it on the news, is that he was riding along on the left-hand corner in the road while he passing to the truck. And somehow, I don't know, I wasn't there, but the handle of the truck, the handle of the cycle jumped on the truck and spin the bicycle around, and he fell under the truck. And whereas the truck ran him over. If he had rode in front of the truck, you would have seen a different impact, not from the behind. So is that both of them was coming the southern direction, and somehow, I don't know, like the bicycle handle touched to the truck and spin the bike and pulled him under the truck.
The Evening News understands that the truck was loaded with sand when the accident occurred. The lad would have received severe injuries. However, eyewitnesses related that the truck drove too close to the corner, especially since the road is narrow and cannot accommodate two vehicles at the same time. It was also reported that prior to the accident, the truck almost hit another resident who was sitting on a bench in front of his yard. Meanwhile, Ramnarayan Manu revealed that his nephew was a devoted Hindu and someone who was always willing.
My nephew, this boy is always smiling, he's always polite, nice, he's always willing, and he's always ready to do something to help anybody. Anything you ask him for, he's always there for it.
The lad is survived by his parents and 4 siblings. Police are continuing their investigations. Bisha Mohammed, The Evening News.
The Ghana Defense Force, GDF, has welcomed 9 United States Coast Guard personnel for 2 days of interaction with the GDF Coast Guard. The U.S. Coast Guard's men are members of the newly formed Technical Assistance Field Team, or TAFT, a joint U.S. Coast Guard Department of Defense team based out of the United States Southern Command in Miami, Florida, the U.S. Embassy here said in a statement. The team provides hands-on technical assistance in support of the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative CBSI partnership. TAFT assistance focuses on the upkeep of U.S. purchase interceptor type of small boats and used for combating international organized crime such as narco-trafficking and piracy. According to the release, TAFT, a team is currently comprised of 9 U.S. Coast Guard members, with 6 U.S. Army personnel expected to join the team by the spring of 2014. At full operating capacity, the team will be able to provide local and long-distance support to Caribbean coastal forces, including Guyana Defense Force Coast Guard Service. Join us after these messages for more news. Welcome back. You're watching the Evening News. Guyana's move to conduct a U.S. $80,000 feasibility study on cruise tourism is a step in the right direction. Specialists in the field say, but noted that critical changes are needed to advance tourism here. Svetlana Marshall joins us again.
If found feasible, cruise tourism will further diversify Guyana's tourism industry, Subject Minister Yves Finali said. However, he said the establishment of an institutional framework is a prerequisite.
Cruise tourism is indeed a great potential for Guyana, and it's very important that we have a comprehensive study of this potential, of the institutional arrangement, of the legislative arrangement that is required for us to have an efficient cruise tourism industry. Because the cruise tourism industry brings with it a number of other regulatory, legislative, and institutional necessities that must be put in place.
The underlying benefits to be derived from cruise tourism cannot go unnoticed, he said, noting that it brings an influx of tourists who would likely interact with the local economy during an intense period. The Tourism and Hospitality Association of Guyana, TAG, has also welcomed the initiative, noting that it will play a leading role in the consultative process. TAG's president, Keith Nascimento, said serious problems must be addressed as he alluded to the 3 main rivers in Guyana, singling out the Demerara River. It is no secret that the Demerara and Essequibo rivers require serious dredging, an issue that has been on the table for some time now.
Our harbour is completely inadequate, needs very seriously dredging. Indeed, the Shipping Association, quite apart from tourism, and I know this from sitting on the Private Sector Commission, has been indicating to the government now for some time that we need to very seriously dredge and refurbish the Georgetown Harbour.
Nascimento said while the Immigrations Department has the ability to adapt to this upcoming industry, he said preparation is key to its development. Additionally, he said steps must be taken to restore the Garden City.
You don't want tourists flowing into Georgetown as it looks today. And it's not merely cleaning up the garbage. It goes a great deal further than that. It's cleaning, keeping the streets clean, washed, cleaned, removing all of the houses in and around Georgetown which are collapsing. We could do a great deal to preserve some of the older architectural sites in Georgetown.
Both the government of Guyana and the Georgetown Mayor and City Council have been bashed for the deplorable state of the capital city. Citizens were also urged to be responsible in their actions, as they too were identified as major contributors to the pileup of garbage. Just a few cruise ships have visited Guyana, with the most recent being the National Geographic cruise ship. Reporting for the Evening News, I'm Svetlana Marshall.
The Guyana Responsible Parenthood Association, GRPA, will kick off its 40th anniversary celebrations on Sunday under the theme Advancing Sexual and Reproductive Health and Rights for All Guyanese. The celebration will commence with an event planned for the Seawall Bandstand, Kingston, Georgetown, around 16 hours on Sunday. On this occasion, GRPA will also launch the Vision 2020 for the International Planned Parenthood Federation, IPPF, an international NGO of which GRPA is an accredited Limited Member Association. The IPPF works in 172 countries to empower the most vulnerable women and men and young people to access life-saving opportunities and to live with dignity. GRPA in a statement said it joins IPPF in its commitment to work towards the elimination of poverty, gender inequalities and injustices in ways that respect, protect and fulfill human rights of all persons. The IPPF Vision 2020 is a 10-point plan to put sexual and reproductive health and rights at the heart of the international development agenda. As the inaugural Guyana Fashion Week culminates, first-time exhibitors have expressed their gratitude to the committee for giving them the opportunity to showcase their talents. Bishar Mohammed met with the newcomers and filed this report.
For the first time, Guyana Fashion Week is held at Rahamans Park, Georgetown, which saw a number of new designers showcasing not only talents but rather their masterpieces with the hope of capturing the attention of the fashion industry. Most of the newcomers are optimistic thus far since the response has been overwhelming. The Evening News caught up with a few of the newcomers who had various products to showcase ranging from costume jewelry, hair and body products, cosmetics, and more importantly, the fabulous costumes and outfits.
Guyana Fashion Week is such an excellent time to market yourself and new products. So people have seen some of my artwork around, but I'm also using this time to promote my body products. I came out with a line of soaps and creams and body scrubs. The focus of the soaps is a coconut oil, olive oil, oatmeal base, and then I saturate them with fruit. So one of them is a breadfruit soap, and this one is jamoon. And then I also have shea butter, coconut oil, and beeswax, which removes marks, and it's in a body butter form. And we have sugar scrubs, and this is a natural repellent for mosquitoes with a neem oil base and citronella, and they're all going to be available at GMC.
Fashion weekend, nowhere are we going to get an opportunity to get the exposure for rave designs that we're going to get at Fashion Week, you know. The persons that come here, the persons that are interested in this sort of thing, we also have our natural jewelry line that is benefiting a lot from the persons that are coming here and expressing their interests. We expect to get more the Guyanese people to be more knowledgeable about rave and what rave designs can do for them in terms of costume as well as natural jewelry.
LA Colors is a brand just like any other makeup brand, but what happens with LA Colors, it carries the entire line. You get the from eyeshadows, foundation, powder, eye primer, liquid eyeliner to lip gloss, all different colors lip liners. We have gel eye pencil for the persons that like the boldness on their eyes. We have nail polish, foundation brushes, the entire line of LA Colors.
However, one of the designers who traveled all the way from the United States to be a part of the event explained his line of clothing.
The designs is for dancehall, the dancehall culture, the club wear, the party people, the people with. We're looking for release, joy, and send off that energy. I'm doing this kind of clothing for approximately like 25 years. I'm in America, I'm living in America, in Brooklyn, and I realized that the Jamaican dancehall have their own style. So when I saw what they was going on with, I didn't know where they was getting the clothing. So I personally try to find where and how to get the presentation to deal with the dancehall culture.
The Guyana Fashion Week continues tonight and will come to an end tomorrow evening with the designer's portfolio. Bishar Mohammed at Evening News.
Join us after these messages for your Evening News Sportcast, sponsored by Mako. Welcome back, and now for a look at sport in your headlines. Moray House Thrust hosts a conversation about cricket. Bowman proud of success of IGG female basketball team, and busy weekend for cyclists. Former West Indies and England captains Clive Lloyd and Mike Atherton, along with local historian Dr. Winston McGowan, took an attentive audience down memory lane of the Caribbean's glory days of cricket, while also discussing the decline of the game in the region on Thursday evening at the Moray House Trust during a conversation about cricket. Let's join Rajiv Bisnoth for this special report.
Clive Lloyd said the current crop of West Indies cricketers need to display more loyalty and discipline if the game in the Caribbean is to return to its glory days.
I think it's a combination of both. Because if you have the talent and you don't have the attitude, I think that that's what I've always said to the players. If you want to gain altitude, you have to have the right attitude. So you have to have the right attitude to suit whatever you have. You could be a great player, but if you're going to just go out there and decide in trouble, you bang, 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 you make a quick 50 and you're out, it doesn't do anything for the team. You've got to have the attitude. You have to have that thinking. And that is the problem that I think the West Indies have at the moment. We still lose very close games. And that's because we don't think through situations.
Meanwhile, stressing on a comparison of Test and limited overs cricket, the former middle-order batsman noted that while some players are well-rounded and adjust to all three formats of the game, others find themselves limited within the era of the longer version of the game, either due to fitness or financial reasons, declaring that the limited overs cricket takes away from Test cricket.
My take on the two things is that 2020 is an exhibition and Test cricket is an examination. That's my take on it. And I think if you look at it, that is how we should take it, because with Test cricket, it's a test. It's really a test of your skills. It's an exhibition in 2020. It's ball beating from the word go. But still, you still have to have some technique to hit it straight or even cross-bat it. Right.
On the other hand, Atherton, who led England in 54 Test matches, reinforced that the shorter formats of the game have definitely made it easier for players to earn more without putting in as much work. Atherton said a typical example is Australian fast bowler Shaun Tate.
So there's a lad called Shaun Tate, who's an Australian who bowls very, very fast, 94, 95 miles an hour, but basically can only do it for 3 or 4 overs at a time, and that's all he needs to do in 2020 cricket. Whereas in Test cricket, he'd have to do that, he'd have to bowl 20 overs a day, he'd have to keep coming back for first spell, second spell, third spell. He might even have to bowl for 2 days in a row, and his body can't do that. So in a way, the 2020 allows him to have a career, which is a good thing, but it also means that he's lost to Test cricket. He kind of accepts the fact that he doesn't need to toughen his body up, and he bowls quickly in 20 over cricket.
Lloyd also expressed that cricket in the school system is a critical element for the development of the game. Present were cricketers, past and present, and other members of society who engage a panel with questions and suggestions of their own.
After making history by winning their first gold medal at the Inter-Ghana Games, manager of the junior female basketball team, Chris Bowen, said he was proud of the girls and their efforts in Suriname. Tristan Joseph has more.
The female junior basketball team created history by winning their first gold medal at the Inter-Ghana Games, and manager of the team, Chris Bowman, sat with this newscast to talk about the long journey to success for the team in an exclusive interview today.
We are proud because we know where they're coming from. 2007 when the girls played for the first time after the revival of the Inter-Ghana Games. At that time we did not have a nursery, and they did poorly. In 2007, they did poorly in 2008, so they have really paid the price to get to this stage, and it did not happen by chance, they've worked very hard.
Bowman, who is also the co-director of the youth basketball team organization, spoke proudly of the squad's dedication to the game, noting that the victory was no surprise since the chemistry was good among the players.
It's time and really going through the process of preparation and perseverance without giving up, and that is what the girls did, and the girls themselves deserve a lot of credit for what they did, because at the end of the day, players have to go out and play the game, and Tamara, who is the team's captain for the girls, she was highly motivated. Janelle was highly motivated. Kadian was highly motivated. Christy was highly motivated. These were the returning girls. They were highly motivated.
Bowman also lauded pioneers such as Mark Agard, Bobby Cadogan, and of recent, Ann Gordon, who was the coach of the 2013 team, for their efforts with the female ballers. noting that the dynamic duo of Captain Tamara Hunter and the rebounding machine, Janelle Eiffel, work well with the rest of the team.
The difference with girls basketball to male basketball, girls have nothing to prove necessarily individually. They are more team oriented. They support each other. They communicate on defense. They talk a lot. They have a better synergy among themselves. And they are good friends off the court. They are very, very close off the court and on the court. So they are sisters. They're very close. And I think that really helps in terms of how they execute on the court.
Meanwhile, Guyana expects to host the games next year, and a strong and deeper women's team is anticipated, according to Bowman and the National Sports Commission, which supports the YBG programs.
Local riders are in for a busy weekend with the staging of 2 cycling events at different parts of the country. Rajiv Bisnod reports.
The experienced Robin Passard will look to defend the feature schoolboys and invitational race on Saturday, when national cycle coach Hassan Mohammed stages a second Payless Variety Store 11 race program at the inner circuit of the national park. Passard won with a time of 1 hour, 80 minutes, 42.19 seconds last year, but this year has not been quite the same, and no doubt the 38-year-old rider will want to successfully defend his title on Saturday and return to winning ways even as the 2013 season draws to a close. A new champion will be crowned in a juveniles race, since last year's winner Raw Leol, who was involved in an accident earlier this year, has not fully recovered, while Junior Niles, Nigel Jacobs and Alfie Sunaram will look to defend their respective titles. Other races carded for the day include the veterans over 50 and over 60. BMX Boys Open 6 to 9, 9 to 12 and 12 to 14 years. Action is set to pedal off at 9 hours. Representatives of Payless Variety Store of Wellington Street in Georgetown and Vida Hope are expected to be present at the event to assist in the distribution of prizes at the conclusion. Following Saturday's race, the riders will switch focus to the roadways on Sunday, when DGCL stages a second annual breast cancer awareness 78-mile race from Linden to Georgetown starting at 7 hours.
Remember, you can read about these and other stories in tomorrow's edition of the Ghana Times newspaper, which can be picked up from vendors across the country. When you're not reading our newspaper or watching TVG Channel 28, do tune into RGI on 89.3, 89.5 or 89.7 FM. Join us after these messages for your bridge reports. Welcome back, and now for a look at your bridge reports. The Demo Harbour Bridge will be closed on Saturday, October 26 at 10 hours 30 for a period of 1.5 hours. And the Berbice River Bridge will be closed on Saturday, October 26 at 9 hours 30 for a period of 1.5 hours. That's your Friday, October 25, 2013 edition of the Evening News. I'm Samuel Suknandan. Thanks for joining us.